IMC conditions, known icing conditions, too wet to plow. Be a good day for doing some wrenching inside the barn. Before there was 54,000 subscribers to the Blancolirio channel, before the Oroville Dam, before the mighty Luscombe was made famous, there was this, the CB500X, the Rally Raid CB500X motorcycle. This was the subject that got the Blancolirio channel off the ground with a whopping 4,000 or so subscribers. And today, Rally Raid CB500X viewers can rejoice. We're going to revisit the CB500X and do a technical video today on how to replace the steering bearings on this machine. This machine had a little bit of minor historical significance, as this was the first Rally Raid converted CB500X motorcycle here in the United States. I'd been following Jenny Morgan's adventures on ADV Rider Forum and following their development of their conversion of the stock CB500X to this very capable adventure bike. And I was one of the first ones to buy the kit and install it here in the United States using basic hand tools and the help of Pete, then 3 years old, in the backyard. While I was putting this kit together, I did a very careful video of the assembly process, and that has become the de facto video of how to do the conversion for this motorcycle. For you regular viewers that just like to watch people work, you might enjoy this video, much like how we used to enjoy Bob Ross and his painting videos. You can watch me wrenching on this motorcycle, and I'll try to keep it G-rated. Here's the kit that we're going to install today. The Alls Balls kit. I'll supply the part number here, 130279er. Comes with 2 each tapered bearings, a 993519-1 and a 993520. Now, in hindsight, I would recommend that you go ahead and do this job, the replacement of the steering head bearings, while you do your Rally Raid conversion on your motorcycle, as these bearings are a vast improvement over the stock bearings in the machine, and it's going to be a lot of work getting back into the all the way down to the front end to the steering bearings on this to get them replaced. When you're doing the Rally Raid Level 2 conversion, you already are down to the triple trees and it'd be a great opportunity to replace these bearings. So for those of you that are doing the conversion, I'll fast forward the video to this point here, and you can get right to the bearing replacement itself. For the rest of you, I'll show you the complete disassembly procedure to get into the bearings. It's also a good idea to do this job when you're doing the Rally Raid conversion, because when you're adding the extra 2 inches of suspension that the kit gives you, you're adding extra stress onto those stock bearings. And I put over 25,000 miles on this bike, and this has been absolutely the only issue I've had with this bike after its conversion. When you check your front steering, it should be nice and smooth and flopping from side to side. This one, you can tell, has a notch right there that it wants to return to every time. So those bearings are shot. And it completely ruins the steering of the motorcycle when it feels notchy like that. Even with brand new tires, TKC 80s. So we'll start the procedure by removing any of the giant loop luggage. We'll remove the tall windscreen. We'll remove the entire front cowling. We'll remove the high fender mod, we'll remove the front wheel and both front forks. By point of comparison, this is a stock CB500X. The Rally Raid bike completely replaces the suspension, the internals in the front forks. The Level 2 kit, you get the wire wheels, more suitable for off-roading, with the knobby tires, tubed TKC 80 Continentals we have to buy separate from the kit. You also get buy a bash plate so you can get some engine protection, and that converts this relatively adventure styled motorcycle, which is really a great street bike, into a truly capable middleweight adventure bike. Now, what do I got this one for? Well, first, it was a scratch and dent special. I couldn't resist the price at only $3,500 with 6,000 miles on the thing. I'd like to do a Rally Raid Level 1 conversion of this to make this the budget touring bike with about a budget of about $1,000 on the Rally Raid parts. On the Level 2 kit, you're looking at about $3,000 US to get it set up into this configuration. We'll start with a 4mm Allen wrench and remove this windshield so we don't scratch or tear it up. Just loosen these up. This, by the way, is the tall Honda OEM windscreen and a MRA sport spoiler on the top. I'll show you that. MRA sport spoiler on the top, and that gives you fantastic wind protection. This bike has taken me on a lot of great adventures all throughout the western US, all the way up Idaho, Montana, down south into Death Valley. But more importantly, it's allowed me to meet some of the greatest people in the motorcycle industry. And we'll take the little rubber nuts off the back and remove the windshield. I like to put all this hardware back where it came from for future reference, so I'm not losing all the little bits and pieces. By the way, we've jacked the bike up today with just a standard 1,000-pound scissor lift. This one happens to come from Drag Specialties. With the Rally Raid bash plate on the bike, you lose the capability of having a center stand because that mount is shared with the bash plate, and you don't want the center stand on an adventure bike bashing around in the rocks and getting in the way of things. Remove the giant loop bags, which just unzip. That way you can take it in the hotel at night. I run these pocket panniers on the side with everything I need to change a inner tube in here. Just clip on like that. Now we'll pop these side panels off here, these what I call Honda Civic side panels here and here, starting right here. Again, 4mm Allen. There's some Velcro back here. Before we do that, I'll have to pop the seat, as I recall. With the key, let's go ahead and pop the seat off. And then we'll disconnect the battery since we're going to be working up front. Battery located right under the seat. You can just disconnect the negative right there. A screwdriver. One more fastener for this first panel located right here. And this panel should come off right here. A little pull there and pull there and some Velcro. As I recall. That's my finger. There we go. Velcro. So it uses Velcro and buttons. A little dusty under there. Let's clean her up. Under here's a couple features, cool features. Here's your voltage regulator. Check the wires on that. This bundle of green wires, there's your ground for the entire motorcycle. If you ever have any electrical troubleshooting issues on these things, check your electrical ground to the frame and make sure there's no corrosion preventing that from grounding properly. Take a look at all the attachment fittings and see how she's doing. There's the overflow for the coolant right there. Shift lever for the transmission. We gotta put the little hardware bits back in for future reference. Remove the other panel from the other side. Carefully without breaking anything. Good. Pretty dusty. Let's clean her up. These 25,000 miles have been mostly big, long dirt road, dusty trail adventures. We have not gone easy on these bikes, and they've held up extremely well. Of course, there's a whole series of videos on these adventures, and of course a separate series on the build-up of this project as well. All part of the Blancolirio legacy. Been a lot of fun. Met a lot of really great people. Relay over here. This is the reservoir for the rear shock, all part of the Rally Raid conversion using tractive rear suspension. The stock CB500 comes with this low fender, which works fine off-road except for the occasional occasion when you get that thing packed up with mud. So one of the last mods we did on this bike was a high fender mod. This was Jenny Morgan's design. This is a stock, readily available front fender. I got a whole separate video on that. And Jenny developed a bracket to mount this fender onto the bottom triple tree. We'll have to get this out of the way before we proceed further with the cowling. A 10mm socket up here gets these 4 bolts removed. And there is the bracket, the Jenny Morgan designed bracket that fits on the lower triple tree for the high fender mod. By removing the fender, that's going to give us access to these 2 bolts here, which holds on the cowling or the nose piece. We'll have to remove a few more screws right here and here. By the way, this is an R&G radiator guard produced by R&G, another company over there in the UK. Keep your radiator protected from flying rocks. And 2 more screws here and here. 2 more screws to remove on the cowling located right here, and same on the other side. There's 2 more screws to remove from the cowling, one located right here and one located right over back here. Keep track of this cowling hardware as each application is slightly different. Lighting today provided by a couple of heavy-duty floodlights over there and a heavy-duty Oroville Spillways Custom Kiewit Engineering mag light. Thank you, Kiewit Engineering. What an odyssey that's been. It's Thursday, March 7th, and the real-time numbers at Oroville are 822 feet. 6,000 CFS out, so what is that? At least 5 turbines running. I'm still not sure they got all 6 turbines going. I think one of the turbines is still still has not been put back into service, but I'm not positive on that yet. Inflows, still raining outside right now, 40,000 CFS. I think we're gonna get us a spillway opening here real soon. Remember, 835 to 848 feet is where they want to end up eventually here in March. We'll have 2 electrical plugs to unplug on this side of the bike, but right now let's get the pair of 13mm wrenches and take off the mounting bolts for the cowling or the nose piece. Let me get a socket on that, speed this up. Need a little persuasion. Okay, let's see if we can get to that wiring and do that. Hang on to your hardware for future reference. Now I can get to the wire plugs over here. Here's the 2 electrical plugs back here to unplug, pinch and squeeze. That one and this one right here. And there's your cafe style CB500X. You know, the Rebel, same engine, a lot of the same parts as this bike. You see it now. Here's what the inside of this rather heavy nose cowling instrument cluster looks like with this big steel frame right here. Okay, now we're ready to remove the front wheel, get the front disc brake up out of the way, and remove the front forks. Show you around underneath the hood here a little bit, points of interest. Here's the two plugs we disconnected to get the wiring off of the cowling. Here's the charcoal canister for your smog equipment, prevent fuel fumes from escaping. Here's your ignition barrel, ignition switch, and here is a bunch of relays to run your electrical system. Your fuses are all located back here behind the battery. Here's your radiator cap, just checked it, it's perfect. Good opportunity to clean your RNG radiator, all the dirt and bugs out of there. And look at those pipes. Everybody said, oh, those pipes are going to get smashed, or they're so exposed. And after 25,000 miles of really hard riding, that's the only dent I got. And this bash plate is really taking a beating. And right behind there, of course, is your oil filter. I understand this engine is basically 2 cylinders from a Honda Civic. And that's why we love that Honda reliability out on the trail. To remove the rear wheel, you're going to want to undo the pinch bolt with a 12mm wrench right there. Just make that loose. And then with a large 17mm Allen, get the axle out. Without knocking the bike off of the stand. This axle just threads into the right fork. Just like that. Track your spacers. We'll get the front brake out of the way. Now, on the trail, Rally Raid makes some lightweight wrenches, but be careful, they're a little weak right there. They're easy to bend. But you want to carry these on the trail for you if you got to do a inner tube change. The 12mm socket will remove the front disc brake caliper with these 2 bolts right here. Remember, don't be tempted to squeeze the front brake unless you put something. You can put a clothespin or something in between your front brake disc pads there to keep them from spitting out if you accidentally squeeze the front brake with no disc in there. Then we're going to want to hang this brake up so that we're not hanging it off of the hose. In fact, let's remove the hose from the fork right here. Bracket right here, 10 mil on the back, 8mm on the front. Some folks like to take off all these reflectors when they adventurize their bike, but I like to keep them on. I kind of like the stock blinkers too, nice big blinkers for drivers to see you. Nice new equipment, even though this is 5 or 6 years old. Everything's still in great shape. Not a bunch of rusted out, clapped out hardware like I'm used to working with on old airplanes. Temporarily hang up this brake so it's not hanging on that hose. You're not tugging and damaging that front brake line. At this point, this is a good opportunity to consider servicing your forks since you're going to this level of teardown. Check your forks for any leaks around the seals there. You may be having to replace a seal as well. If you're going to do the service on your forks, consider keeping these 2 pinch bolts tight on your triple tree, loosening these 2 bolts up, and breaking loose your cap bolts to your forks at this time. In other words, use your triple tree as a vise if you're like me and you're just doing all this work in the garage without a lot of specialty tools. And then you can easily service your forks. These are in good shape. I recently serviced them, so I won't be messing with that at this point. At another point, when you do the Rally Raid mod, you're going to want to consider sourcing a pair of fork boots, as the stock bike does not have fork boots. If you're going to start riding these things in the dirt more, you're going to want to protect your seals so that you're not replacing seals prematurely, like I was. With a 12mm wrench on the top pinch bolt and a 14mm wrench on the lower pinch bolt, let's loosen these up and slide this left fork tube out. Don't over torque these. In fact, they should be torqued to spec when you put them back together. Loosen up. You know you don't have them torqued good enough when you're pounding through the dirt and you find one fork leg shoved way up through here in your pinch bolts. Now let's remove the right fork tube. Remember, the right fork tube is the one with the disc brake attached to it. It is, believe it or not, easy to mix them up, but it'll be self-critiquing soon enough. Ta-da! One each right pogo stick. Good shape. Rally Raid suspension in conjunction with Tractive Engineering in the Netherlands. See the complete video for all the work we did on the inside of this fork tube here. It was easy to install right in your own backyard. When these bikes in the stock configuration, they work great for the price budget that they're marketed for. What do they call it? Budget engineering or value engineering, I think it is. But if you push these bikes on the street hard in the corners with bumps in them, you'll feel the suspension come unsettled. And with that fat front stock tire, the bike wants to, the stock suspension wants to impart a righting motion. It wants to right the bike or bring it upright. So all that is removed with the Rally Raid suspension mods. And the bike remains completely settled in all the corners, regardless of how lumpy it is. With these Rally Raid forks, you get fancy adjustable preload adjusters on the top of the fork where you can put some additional tension on that fork spring. With a 6mm Allen, let's remove the handlebars. 4 bolts right up here, and with the idea of these handlebars is just flop them over out of the way. It takes a lot of work setting these handlebars up. You want to leave all that stuff connected. We'll have to excuse the poor lighting, but we ain't got time to mess with that. We just got to get her done. And this top triple tree is all part of the Rally Raid kit and all part of the Rally Raid magic that gives you the additional suspension travel you need using the stock front forks. I'll show you in a minute here. It's a step down triple tree on the top, and Honda has pretty well copied what Rally Raid has done on their 19 model CB500X, as the 19 model is the first year where they've jumped from the stock 17-inch front wheel to a now stock 19-inch front wheel. And of course you gotta make room for that 19-inch, that bigger wheel, just like on the conversion here, so that when you're fully compressed the front suspension, the front wheel doesn't bind up and bash into the radiator. Here's the only custom socket you might need to find if you don't already have it in your collection, is a giant 30mm socket to get this top triple tree nut off right here. I'll show you over here. It's a little plastic. I should say BMW in the middle or something fancy like that. Okay, let's remove this stem hardware and try to pop this top triple tree off and get to the nut underneath that top triple tree. Friendly underhanded persuasion. Okay, one each top triple tree. See, we just let that hang right there. And here's what I want to get to. Show you. Let's take a load off all these wires and controls on the handlebars by holding them up here. Here's the top of the stem and the nut to loosen up and drop the bottom triple tree down out of the frame, the gooseneck. This nut has a little locking washer right here. And right here. Should come right off. Yep. Just like that. There's the locking washer. With a proper size punch and calibrated hammer, let's bust this nut loose. Put the triple tree, man, that is notched. Those bearings are shot. Let's put that triple tree right up against the stop. See if we can get this to come loose. Yay. Success. We're getting all this scintillating action on the webcam. A little dusty. Oh, is this going to just fall right out? I think it is. Or is it going to need to get a little persuasion too? Holy smokes. Does that mean there's no bearings left at all in there? Oh my goodness. We gotta get the wide on this. Stand by. Breaking news. Brownie's running around with completely failed steering bearings in his CB500X. And it handled so poorly. That's just because they were loose. There they are. Finally, after all that wrenching. I'm sure the all balls bearings are going to be a vast improvement over these stalkers. These are straight, well, they're tapered ball bearings. That's the stock grease after 25,000 miles. That part's looking all right. Now it's time to get the old bearing races out of the gooseneck, top and bottom. For that, you're going to need a long tapered punch and an appropriate size ball peen hammer. The upper race is located just right here and has just enough of an edge on it where if we approach it from underneath with a long tapered punch, we can get under there and punch this thing out. She's coming right out. What you call a interference fit. The race is just a few thousandths larger than the seat that it's sitting in. Probably not even a few thousandths. Just carefully work it out evenly so that you don't get it all cocked sideways in there. Ouch, that's my finger. Ka-ting. There she is, one each race. Now we want to get the lower race out of here using the same technique. This bottom race is a bit of a challenge because there's not much to grab onto. If you slide in here with your punch, you can't quite get the edge of that race. So after much fiddling and farting around, a giant pair of channel locks, just using this end here, basically pry this sumbitch out of there. That gets a hold of there. Time to get creative. Do what you gotta do. It's got a pretty good bite on it. Oh yeah, that's moving her. Oh yeah, you just come right out. Smash your mirror. Yeah, she's wiggling right out of there. That's enough. I can. Another trick is to take the socket extension, maybe the 3/8 is better, inverted with this bell end. You might be able to catch it on this edge as opposed to this edge. Just a little short. Yep. So get creative, think out of the box. It's your world. Go ahead and mangle it any way you like. I don't think Bob Ross the painter would say it quite like that. Just thinking happy little clouds. Happy little grease spots. Come on now, you. I usually find that swearing works best. Now let's see, where's my big old punch? This guy. Let's see if I can get it there with this. Maybe. Yeah. Just barely. So close. Take your time, get creative, smash your fingers. And at some point you'll be thinking, maybe I should just take it down to the shop. Oh, that'd be good, break the light. But remember, never give up. Get this thing out of here and quit monkeying around with it. Ta-da! One each. Lower race. A real close examination of this lower race shows you where all your steering troubles are from. Those ball bearings just dug in right there, and you can easily feel it all notched out. Now on the inner race, on the lower triple tree, you're going to want to get a Dremel tool and destroy that race, but only cut most of the way in, not all the way through. Once you cut most of the way through, the race will pop right off without damaging the stem. Now, even though this kit is called out specifically for this bike, you want to check that the diameters are the same and that the thicknesses of the two assembly are approximately the same. You can make up a slight difference in thickness of the assemblies with a shim and the threads here on the stem. And look at the difference in quality of these ball bearings. This is the plain stock ball bearing, and this is what I call a Timken roller bearing. Much more working area. And of course this is what we use in aviation, for example, on the wheels of the mighty Luscombe. So let's go grease it up. Clean up the seats and get them ready for the race. We'll heat this up and we get the race itself in the freezer. So We'll expand this section with heat and cool and shrink the race so the interference fit will be less interference. Be a little looser, a little easier to install. Be mindful, you got a fuel tank right there. Smoking hot there. All right, let's get the race out of the cooler. Race against time. Now you got to put this in the correct direction. Put this in the correct direction. Favorite board and mallet. Driving it in. Now, grab the old race. Use that as a, well, I'll have to get it inside here a little better. Don't get this stuck in there. Been known to do that before too. Almost. Uh-oh, see? Yeah, dang it. Tap, tap. You'll be able to see and hear the difference once it's all the way home, which it pert near is. Good. She's in. And we didn't burn down the barn. Oh, that's gonna be sweet. Ooh, daddy. To grease these up. Get the bottom all cleaned out and inspected. You can touch it up with any crocus cloth if you see any narf marks. Apply a little heat to the lower. Smoking hot. To touch preferably. Maximize your burned fingers. Gloves on. working now pretty good. Get your race out of the freezer. Just frozen. She's frozen good. Make sure it's going the correct direction. And you got your tools handy. Yeah. That's hot. Hot and cold. Oh yeah, look at it. She just falls right into place. Oh yeah, baby. Find the old race. Drive her home. Oh yeah, going in nice. Tink, tink, tink. Hear that difference? She's on the shoulder, all the way home. Good. Success. Time to pack the new bearings with grease. You all remember how to do that. Just dive right in. I'm about to run out here. On screen, there we are. Start feeding it in there. Till it comes out the other end. Need some more and more and more. Let's go the other direction. See it start to come out of there. Pack it full. Greasy kid stuff. I don't have a clean finger on me. Then I've taken some extra grease and coated the inside of this tube. Not excessively, but just enough to prevent rusting. Keep the pressure washer away from here. Don't wash away your hard-earned work. Now we've cleaned up the stem. I've cooled it off in the cooler. I'm warming up this bearing here, again, a little temperature difference. And then we're going to want to use the old race here to help us drive the new bearing on using the skinny end, grabbing the inner race, not the fat end, mashing down on our brand new bearings here. And then we'll tap it onto the stem. But first, of course, we got to add the new dust seal in the correct direction. Okay, we got the new dust seal on the new bearing going the correct direction. Down onto the stem. And drive her home. Skinny end, skinny end. We got the bearing going the correct direction. Taper side correct. This part is not critical part of the stem, only the shoulder where the bearing's going to ride on. Easier way to do this, maybe to flip it upside down in a vise and pound on the top of the triple tree. Don't get this stuck on there. Dang it. Like that. just about there. I think she is there. Ooh. We're almost there now, boys and girls. We added some more grease to our bearings. Slide that right up into position. Drop the new top bearing down in there. All that should hold together. The new dust seal, correct direction. That should stay together, and boy, does that feel much better already. Having carefully laid out the parts in sequential order, we're going to start first with our tensioning nut here. And set the desired amount of tension on this stem. Want to bring it down so it's just a little bit tight. Back it off. No rocking back and forth. Take it over and stop. Let's give it a couple of whacks with the hammer. See how she feels. Greasy hammers. This will help pull the tapered bearings together. Finish any driving they have to get home. See, that's already getting kind of stiff, kind of tight. So I'm gonna see if they'll pull together a little bit more and then back it off. Getting tighter. Let's back it off. Oops. Reset this here a little bit. Let's try that right there. I like it. Now that we have the proper preload set on our bearings, let's put the lock washer and lock nut back in. 2 tabs down, grab those any two tabs. And this doesn't matter which way she goes on. She is symmetrical. We're just going to spin this around until we can line up. Two locking tabs and lock her down. This is what keeps you from losing the whole front end when you're out there doing wheelies. Not me. 2 tabs down, 2 tabs up. Now we're ready for the triple tree. We should have no threads protruding out of here. The triple tree can set right on top of here and bolt right onto here. Alright, with the bars free, let's drop the triple tree on. Remember, the forks will line up the 2 trees. A little more hammer action. Hammer time. Looking good. One each shiny washer, one each nut. Your fancy 30 mil giant socket, and that little dust cover piece of plastic to go on the inside. Before we torque this top triple tree nut down, let's line up the triple trees with the forks. like that. Kind of like that. We'll do the final adjustment at the final assembly when we put the front wheel together. Oh yeah, that's going to be just fine. Just enough to hold that from falling down. All right, now we can put the final hurt with the 30 mil on the top. Righty tighty. Put this on over. Wires out of the way. Now that we got the wires out from underneath the saddles, we can bring the handlebars home. You never have time to do it right the first time, but always seem to find time to do it twice. That's what we do here at Blancolirio headquarters. Okay, we got finally got our lines all routed correctly, the brake line the way it should be, the wires and cables for the handlebars in the correct position. The pinch bolts are torqued down to spec on the forks. The handlebars are torqued down and Loctited in position. And look at that, smooth as butter. No more notchiness. I'm real excited to go try this out. The rest of the assembly is just the reverse of the disassembly. One point before you put the final hurt on the pinch bolt on the front tire down here, when you assemble the front wheel, bounce it up and down several times to do the final alignment of the forks before you torque down the front wheel axle and the pinch bolt. I hope this helps you. Try and do it yourself, because this shop rates, as you know, are over $100 an hour, and you can save yourself hundreds of dollars. Those bearings were only about 35 bucks. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's very straightforward. See you here.